Imagine a 19-year-old girl just going about her life in Florida, when out of nowhere, she's pushed into a horrifying situation, hit, smacked, and then soaked in gas before being set on fire. Welcome back to True Crime Tangles. Join us as we explore the heartbreaking story of Audriana Zimmerman. Audriana Zimmerman was born on April 13, 1990. She lived in Mobile Park Home in Escambia County, Florida. She formed bonds with her neighbors, 39-year-old Tina Brown, her 16-year-old daughter Brittany Miller, and 27-year-old Heather Lee. The relationships between Audriana and Tina, along with Brittany, often turned violent. Take this incident as an example. Tina accused Audriana of slashing her tires, while Audriana claimed Tina shattered her car window, had her boyfriend arrested, and reported her to the Florida Department of Children and Families for alleged negligence in childcare. Imagine the volatility of their friendship. Heather often had to break up fights between Brittany, Tina's daughter, and Audriana. But things took a serious turn when Brittany learned that Audriana had been involved with her boyfriend. Furious, Brittany tried to hit Audriana, who defended herself with a stun gun. Later that day, Brittany informed her mother Tina about Audriana using a stun gun on her. Tina reassured Brittany, promising to handle the situation. And boy, the way she handled it. A few days later, Tina invited Audriana over, seemingly to patch things up. Inside Tina's home, tensions rose as Tina, Brittany, Heather, and Brittany's 13-year-old friend gathered. While Tina and Heather talked in the kitchen, Heather explained how to use a stun gun. Meanwhile, Brittany pulled her friend aside and quietly conveyed their intentions to deal with Audriana, in short, killing her, telling her to either keep quiet or face consequences. Around 9 p.m., Audriana went into the trailer thinking they would talk. But then, Tina brought out the stun gun, shocking Audriana over and over out of anger. Audriana fell, asking for help, but Tina kept shocking her. How cruel is that? But did it end just right there? No. They took Audriana to the bathroom, where Tina, Brittany, and Heather made her suffer more. Despite Audriana's cries, Brittany hit her, and Heather stuffed a sock in her mouth. Then, they forced Audriana into Tina's car trunk and drove to the woods. The women drove to a spot in the woods about 1.5 miles from the trailer park. Tina got out of the car and pulled Audriana out of the trunk. Audriana tried to escape, but she stumbled in the dark, and Tina and Brittany caught her. They pushed her to the ground and started hitting her. Tina kept shocking her with the stun gun, while Brittany hit her with a crowbar. Then, Brittany changed to another weapon to keep hurting Audriana. Brace yourselves though, because the worst is yet to come. At one point, Tina dropped her stun gun and started punching Audriana repeatedly. Then, she went back to her car, got a can of gasoline, and walked toward Audriana, who was still conscious but badly hurt. Tina poured gasoline all over her, took out a lighter, and set her on fire. The girls watched Audriana scream as she burned. Brittany was jumping up and down, abusing her continuously. How inhumane can someone be? After a while, they got back in the car and left. On the way home, Brittany remembered she left her shoes near the stun gun. She asked Tina to turn back, but Tina refused. When they got home, Tina and Brittany put their bloody clothes in a bag. Heather threw her bloody shoes in too. Brittany told her 13-year-old friend about hurting her hand and setting Audriana on fire. After Brittany and her friend drove Tina's car to the hospital for medical care for Brittany's hand, they disposed of the trash bag in a dumpster and tried to clean the bloodstains inside the car. Meanwhile, about 1/3 of a mile from the burn site, a man named Terrence Hendrick heard a faint female voice pleading for help while sitting outside his home. He spotted Audriana slowly approaching his house. Audriana arrived at his doorstep, seeking assistance, displaying significant head injuries, without clothes and smelling of gasoline. Her skin was charred black, making it hard to determine her race. Just imagine this horrifying situation. At 9:24 p.m., an emergency medical technician arrived at the scene. Audriana sat on the porch, visibly injured, with over 90% of her body burned. The EMT struggled to identify clothing due to the severity of her burns. Audriana's injuries were severe, with extensive burns preventing immediate medical treatment. The EMT lacked sufficient supplies to cover her burns. Audriana's skin was so fragile that attempts to stabilize her neck caused it to rub off onto the EMT's gloves. Gives goosebumps, right? Despite her serious injuries, Audriana stayed awake and alert. She told the EMT that Tina and Heather were the ones who hurt her. She described how they dragged her out, shocked her, hit her with a crowbar, and set her on fire. She even gave her address and theirs, asking the EMT to check on her kids. Soon, the ambulance came and took Audriana to the hospital. In the ambulance, Audriana kept asking if she'd be okay. She explained how Tina, Brittany, and Heather poured gasoline on her and lit it, even though she thought they had made it up. After being treated at the local hospital, Audriana was sent to the burn unit in Mobile, Alabama. With Audriana's help, the police arrested Tina and Heather right after the attack. Brittany was arrested the next day after leaving the hospital. A few days later, they got out of jail. Tina told her friend Pamela Valley about what they did to Audriana. She said they beat her up, put her in the car, drove to a field, and set her on fire without looking back. Later, Tina asked Pamela to finish Audriana off, but Pamela refused and told the police. Sadly, Audriana couldn't survive her injuries and died 16 days after the attack, on April 9, 2010. After Audriana's death, the women were arrested again, this time for murder. Audriana died from severe burns, which the authorities ruled as a homicide. At the burning site, police uncovered various pieces of evidence: Brittany's shoes, a blood-stained stun gun, paper with bloodstains, a hair weave in orange, gold and black, a crowbar, and a pool of blood. Further search in Tina's car revealed more blood on the passenger seat headrest, later identified as Audriana Zimmerman's. The blood on the stun gun matched Tina Brown's DNA. During the initial interview on the night of the attack, investigators noticed Tina was missing a significant chunk of hair from the back of her head, resembling the hair found at the scene. Throughout the trial, there was a close examination of Tina Brown's troubled life and upbringing, described as lacking, destructive, and abusive. At the time of the crime, she was broken in many aspects. Despite this, the jury found Tina Brown guilty of first-degree murder. 5 days later, the jury unanimously recommended the death penalty, and she received her sentence on September 28, 2012. Tina expressed remorse to the victim's family, acknowledging her role in Audriana's tragic death, saying that Audriana died a horrible death, and she played a part in it as well. When asked about the motive, Tina said Heather started everything by saying Audriana reported her to Crime Stoppers. Heather claimed she was at home cooking all night and denied being involved. But some people remembered Heather admitting to setting Audriana on fire. Heather agreed to a deal, saying she was guilty of second-degree murder and got 25 years in prison. In return, she testified against Tina to avoid the death penalty. Brittany Miller later admitted she was part of the crime, but couldn't face the death penalty because she was only 16 at the time. So, in 2013, she got a life sentence with no chance of getting out of prison. In March 2022, Tina's lawyers tried to change her death sentence because they found out someone lied during the trial. This person said things against Tina because they were scared of Heather Lee, but the court said it was too late to change the decision. And even if they could, Tina would still be guilty because there was a lot of evidence showing she was the main person behind everything. Audriana Zimmerman's story reminds us of the cruelty that can exist in people's hearts. Her life ended terribly, but we hope she finds peace in paradise. Her attackers will have to live with what they did forever. Now, what did you learn from this tragedy? How can you ensure that such horrors never happen again? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe for more eye-opening stories. Thank you for watching.